Hi guys, Dave here with Go Surf. Just going to do a multi-part episode which is going to be basically a complete fin guide. I'm going to start here with just going through all the different types of fin setups, the advantages, what they can do for you, what the disadvantages are of each fin setup. So yeah, I've got the butt end of my little piggy here. This is reviewed on one of my other videos about mid lengths. So this is quite a versatile board. It's a sort of eggy shape. It's kind of like a fattened out, flattened, rockered version of like a Hypto Crypto. So it's kind of got a pretty 70s outline shape. Most of the front end's pretty much a fish, and the back end's like an old pintail. So it's a really versatile board. Unfortunately, it's set up with a slider box and 4 FCS2 plugs. So I've got some fins here in the FCS2 system for single and for thrusters and all the rest of it. So that's going to allow me to show you guys through a few different fin setups and sort of explain what the advantages are and disadvantages are of each one. So really, it's really all about the importance of fins and understanding what works for your style and what works for the waves that you're surfing. You know, it's really a personal preference. There's some rules that can get you to the right fin and the right fin area, and there's ways of fixing things that you don't like about your fins when you understand them and you understand how the different aspects of them work with the base and the depth and the sweep and all the rest of that. And we'll go over that in another episode, but this was basically just to go through the basics of, you know, what is a single fin, what's it going to do for you, what's a quad fin, what's it going to do for you, what's a thruster, what's it going to do for you. Yeah, so it's just a bit of a guide, and it'll help you to understand the different rides. You know, if you're fortunate enough that you've got one of these type of boards, or you've got, you know, one of the modern, like the Takayama Scorpion style, or the modern, I think it's the Love Child, you know, all these boards now that have got 4 fins and a slider box, you can really experiment, and you sort of you've got 4 or 5 boards in one, and you can really learn about fin setups. So yeah, a lot of people don't really play around with the fins enough. A lot of people they've got a board and they say, oh, the board's not very fast. So have you tried your fins? And then, you know, there's some rules you can stick to. If you get a new board, you use your go-to fins to try out the board and see what you like about it and what you don't. And if you've got a new set of fins, you stick it in a board that you know. You try and keep those variables out of the equation. But say we'll go through more of that stuff in more detail in another episode. But yeah, so basically we're just gonna rock through this, and I'm gonna you'll see me pop in and out. So just check out the board and the fins, and ignore my body disappearing in and out of the shot. But okay, so I'm gonna start with a single fin. This is kind of where it all started for surfing. So as you can see, this FCS2 system, slide it down, pop it in, it's in. I just use a towel to get it back out, and you just nudge it from the back and it'll come out. So this is a single fin. This is kind of where it all started. You know, longboards, they used to have a fin glassed on, and they were all longboards, and that's all there was basically. So no one really thought outside of that for a wee while. The single fin, I think, is something that everyone really should own a single fin at some point in their life, and they should learn to surf a single fin, because it's obviously when your surfing's advanced enough to learn it. But single fins, you've got to surf with the wave, you've got to have flow. They're really free and really loose. I think there's some misconceptions about single fins as well. I mean, they're not, you know, it's not like a tri-fin where you're going to be able to charge hard off the bottom and smash it hard off the top and all that stuff. It's a little bit more soulful, a little bit more cruisy surfing, but there's no reason whatsoever why single fins can't be surfed fairly high performance. And bear it in mind that most people are not Kelly Slater or Felipe Toledo. You know, this sort of surfing's really got a lot to say for itself, and it'll really teach you to flow and be smooth. You know, when you're surfing a single fin, you've got to work with what the wave gives you. You're not gonna manufacture masses of your own speed by pumping it up and down and jumping up and down on it like I won't say an idiot, but like you know, like a lot of people have to do on performance boards to get them going. You know, there's very little drag. You're pivoting around. You know, this is the only point you're pivoting around. You're not dragging against anything else. Some of the other fin setups, you know, you've got a pivot point here, and you've got a thruster or a quad. Well, you've got two fins there and a fin at the back, so you're constantly dragging one set of the fins through the water, or they've got the towing on the angles. So, you know, that's your single fin. It just is what it is. Single fin in the box. Really smooth, there's no drag, you've just got this one fin sticking up there. You can tune how much hold you have front and back. So single fins have got plenty of hold. They've got very little drag. They carry on really nicely. They've got lots of momentum and lots of flow. Yeah, once you get going on the single fin, there's very little trying to slow it down. It's just that fin. But they are a little bit quirky to ride. You know, I wouldn't recommend that a beginner starts out on a single fin, but once you're further along in your surfing, I'd definitely recommend trying a single fin. So I absolutely love them. So, you know, there's your advantages of a single fin. You've got the flow, the glide, and it's just a really nice feel. There's something special about the single fin. It's kind of the roots of it all and where it started. So I'd urge everyone to give that a go. So that's the single. Just pop that out. So from the single, that kind of evolved into what we call a 2+1 setup. So in here we got two what they call side bites. These are quite small. They'd generally be probably the maximum size. The maximum size these would be the size of a rear quad fin, but usually less. They're usually a small template, so you're going to have two in there, and then one in here as your back fin, and then your back fin is obviously going to be quite a lot smaller than the single fin was, because it's got the surface area of all three fins now doing the job. And the general consensus to this, I'm just starting an experiment with 2+1s again, so the general consensus to the 2+1 is it'll allow you to drive off the rail a bit harder. In theory, it adds a bit more performance to the way it surfs. You know, if you're used to a thruster, you know, again, this is usually a common longboard setup. So you might see in a longboard, you'd see these a lot bigger. Same with a single fin, it'd be a lot bigger. You can check out my guide on single fins and how to set them up. That'll give you a good guide of fin size to the board. You know, there's so many variations of how big each size of fin is. But yeah, basically it's like a modified single fin. So the whole intent was it's a single fin, but these fins allow you to pivot and pull yourself onto the rail a bit more easily. And it's going to give you a bit more stability and probably a little bit more rail drive when you actually push into a turn. The disadvantage again is you're gonna have a little bit more drag because you've got more fins in the water. You know, these ones are towed in, so as they're going through the water, there's a lot more of the surface area is exposed to being drag. And again, as I say, you're pivoting around. If you're standing on these, if your foot's up here, you're now getting into more of the realms where this is going to be dragging along behind you, which is good in some reasons. You know, some ways you want that because it'll give you some stability and it'll help you do some other things. And like I say, the general consensus is 2+1s. You can drive down a bit harder and climb up the wall and start off higher on the wall, and you know, you can just do your bottom turns a little bit differently. So yeah, that's 2+1. That's the main advantages and disadvantages. Those out. So this FCS2 system's really good. I was a bit dubious at first, to be honest. Sometimes it takes a little bit of getting out, but you just basically have to put a little bit of pressure on the board, not too much, and just lift up. Just make sure you protect your hands, because you can go a bit overboard if you're not careful. Okay, so that's single fins and 2+1s. So that's basically where everything started. And then after that, they got into the eras of twin fins and fish. So this is the FCS2 Power Twin. So this is quite a large twin fin. Obviously on the retro fish, you'll see more of a keel fin setup, which is like this, but just with even more on the back. So put these in. Again, this wouldn't be the ideal board for this, but there's no reason why you couldn't be running a twin fin with a round tail. Some of the original twin fins have actually got quite pulled in tails, deliberately, because there's less, they could afford to have a step there and let the back grab a lot more. So this is your twin fin setup. So you've got two pretty big, powerful fins there. They're situated quite close to where your back foot is. So you've probably not got very much drag. They create a lot of speed because they're quite big, and you're not dragging anything along behind. Now, in a real pure twin fin setup, these boxes would actually be a little bit further back to make up for the fact that you don't have a rear fin. But a lot of people these days are making the boards quite versatile, and they'll have the 5 fin set up, and they'll generally have something like this fin set up with a little trailer fin that probably looks something a bit like that or smaller. and that just gives you some more of the control that you would get from a thruster, because twin fins. So twin fins, let's go into the ups and downs of twin fins. The advantages are they're very fast, there's not too much drag, they turn extremely easily, but the counter side to that is they can feel quite loose and squirrely sometimes, so you can, you know, people say they tend to ride them in smaller waves. There's no reason they can't be ridden in bigger waves as well. Like say, you know, back in the day people were either single fins, and then MR was riding his twin fin, and those were the two options. And you know, you've got plenty of surface area there, so they will still hold. They've just got a feel to them that's quite squirrely. I think as well, the heavier you are, like a lot of the twin fins they're quite big twin fins, but when you're a heavy guy, the surface area that's in two of these might not be anywhere near matching the surface area that you might put in a thruster set, if that makes sense. So, you know, you've got two fins that actually look really big, but if you take away the area, what you'd have in your side fins normally and your back fin combined, you would need some really big fins if you're a big guy. But like I say, they make all these in different sizes, but you know, these are really good. They're really powerful. I quite like them in a small wave. I found them quite sketchy and swirly a lot of the time. You know, I've tried pure twins and stabilizers, and yeah, personally I've usually steered more towards a quad, but again, that's personal preference. I've got a JS Psycho Nitro that I run with these in the trailer, and that actually goes really well because the tail at the back is actually pulled in hard enough that the board creates quite a lot of grip, so you can afford to let the twin fins not be, you know, your fins can not be as grippy, and that's fine, so you get all that speed and looseness, but the board still grips really nicely. So yeah, another really good one to try. Like I say, there's lots of sets now with 2+, you know, it's almost, they call it a 2+1 as well, but it's basically a twin fin with a trailer, and there's just having this little trailer, they're usually not even that big, will give you quite a bit of stability and actually do quite a good job of helping the board to stabilize and track without adding too much drag. You know, in the thruster you're going to get a lot more drag. Okay, so that's twin fins. Let's pop these out. So from the twin fin evolved the thruster. Now again, if you've got a board with a slider, you can actually get one of these, or even a fin box fin, the old school style fin box fin, and there's nothing to stop you riding these as a thruster. So these are the FCS Performers. These are in a large. So that's your two side fins, and that's your back fin, and as you can see, apart from the base, they're exactly the same size. So basically, those in. So again, on a normal board, you'd have a third FCS 2 back box, and that would be, you know, your fin would be exactly the same as that, but obviously a centre fin with foil on each side. So we've plopped that in there. That's basically your thruster setup. So three fins. This was invented by Simon Anderson and basically pretty much revolutionised surfboards back in I'm guessing it was probably the 70s when he came up with it, but like I say, everyone else was originally riding single fins. Then MR came up with a twin fin, and it was such a step up that he won, I think, 4 world titles. And then Simon Anderson came up with a thruster after, and he continued to win, carried on to win some world titles as well. So the thruster fin, everyone would have seen it probably. It's the go-to fin for performance guys. Again, off the single fins and the twins, you've created a little bit more drag, but basically this 2 at the front and one big one, one the same size at the back, is it's really stable. You've got this to pivot off and be able to push up the waves. So if you've been able to go vertical and snap turns quickly and have really good predictable control, you know, this is probably the gold standard for a lot of the high performance world tour surfers a lot of the time. You know, I'll go into quads in a minute, but they do ride quads for different reasons as well. But you know, the thruster's kind of the staple. And to be fair, it's probably what you should learn on as well. You know, if you're learning, you're probably going to be riding like an 8-foot board, and then you know, you might as well have this sort of thruster setup because it's very stable, it's very predictable. You can be quite smooth through your turns. Yeah, and they are the staple of modern surfing basically. So yeah, let's pop that one out and then we'll move on to quads. Oh, it's going to be a bit... Yeah, there we go. Okay, so the quad was kind of developed, I believe, back in the sort of late 70s, early 80s, and it kind of stopped development because the thruster was so successful, but then in the more recent years people have got back into quads and developed them, and I personally love quads. Yeah, quads are probably about one of my favourite setups. So basically you've got pretty much the same fins in the front as you would for your thruster, and then in the back you've got two trailers. Now that's a lot of fin area, so basically in general, I mean, you can set them up a million and one different ways, but in general there'll be more surface area of fin in a quad setup than there will be in your thruster setup. As you can see, the fin is out on the rail, so you're actually getting a lot of hold on your rail. Now this is why a lot of the pros will ride these. Actually, funny enough, a lot of people actually ride them in hollow waves because they give them a lot of speed and hold in the barrel because they're really relying on one side of the rail. I find them really good because they generate a lot of speed. They will make your turns slightly more rounded, so I personally find you can't be as explosive on a quad, but I like to carve really big round turns, so they actually suit me fine. They actually draw my turns out quite nicely for me, and they've always got speed, and they carry speed all the way through the turn. They've got lots of hold. You can hang up, you can sit higher on the wave face. You know, the minute you get these quads in the water on the side, they're putting drive down the rail. Again, you have to do some work on the board to get that. It's not, you know, a single fin's the one where you can just stand up and it'll just, you know, it'll kind of go, where you do a really nice bottom turn and then it'll get going. But yeah, I really like quads. A lot of people will say quads to loosen your board up, which is, yeah, I'm not always sure on that one. People say, oh, stick a quad in to loosen your board up. I kind of think it sort of rounds you. If anything, it probably rounds your turns out a bit more, but it gives you a lot of drive, a lot of hold, and they are probably looser to turn, but in not in the vertical sense of the world. I don't personally think, but yeah. And then again, I also think that because your fins are out on the rail and your back fins are not sat back there, I don't think you've got quite as much drag personally either, because you're pivoting around, you know, your pivot points around the circle rather than having a triangle. You know, if you've got two fins here and one fin there, you've always got the two front fins rotating, and this back fin's always like dragging behind it. But when you move them out further, you're almost rotating around the more circular point. I mean, I'm an engineer, but I'm not that. That's my theory anyway. So yeah, that's quads for you. Quads are really good. I really like quads. You can play around with a million and one variations within those setups. You know, some people get the twin fins and they still put some quad rears in, or just some really small quad rears. You know, you can change out your 2+1 on your longboard. You can have tiny little side bites and quite a big, almost a single fin. So there's loads of variations within those, but those are basically they're the given norms for the advantages and disadvantages of each type of fin setup. Like I say, if you've been learning and you've come off your sort of mini-mile board and you're a couple of years in, you're getting quite good at your surfing, but you're still needing a little bit of volume and a little bit of float. Some of these types of boards that are almost like a mini, tiny longboard are absolutely great for your progression, and you've got the option to play around. I mean, you don't want to confuse yourself too much, but you've got the option to play around with fins, and you can keep your board constant then. So you know, if you've got something like, say, like this, or the Modern Love Child, or a Takayama Scorpion, you can go out and have a nice cruisy day on your single fin when it's small, if that's what you want to do, and then you can switch it up to a thruster when the waves are a bit bigger and you want in that surety and performance. So yeah, play around. Yeah, if you've got any questions, just stick it down in the comments below. I try and help people out where I can. I work full time. This is just a bit of a hobby for me, and basically if it helps people out, that's cool. It's really all about helping people. It's not I'm not here to promote myself or anything particularly. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I have to pay for all my gear, but yeah, just hoping to hoping to basically help people save some money and learn from some of the things I've learned. So we'll carry on and do some more guides on fins. I say fins don't get massive amounts of views or anything, but I think there's limited information out there. I hope that's fairly simple and doesn't confuse people. Actually, I've never said this in my other videos, but please like and subscribe. Didn't really realise. I'd say this is just fun for me really, but yeah, I think the more people that like and subscribe, the higher up the videos get in the rating. So you're basically helping other people to find this. If you find this helpful, please like it, because it's going to help other people to find that, and then more people will see it. And that, that's the idea of creating content, is to help as many people as possible. And yeah, enjoy your surfing, guys. And if you got any questions, just flick me a message, and then I'm gonna there's some videos already on there, but I'm gonna carry on a bit, and I might try and do like the anatomy of the fin, and tell you a bit about base and sweep, and the different things you can do, and how to make changes that'll fix things that you see as problems in the setup that you've currently got. Yeah, cool. Cheers guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.